Pull-ups are difficult enough already without making them harder by layering on mistakes that can see us halt all progress altogether. All too regularly, I see people get started on their pull-up journey, see significant progress initially, only to have that trajectory flatline a few weeks later. So today I want to chat about why this may be happening and by extension discuss why we can't do a pull-up yet and how through avoiding some easy to make mistakes and incorporating some quick wins into our training, we can smash through our pull-up goals. Let's get into it. How you doing, Cali Crowd? Welcome back to the channel that makes calisthenics simple. Diving into the first reason why you can't do a pull-up yet, and it's because you're not pulling efficiently. In the pull-up, we mainly work the traps, rhomboids, rear delts, biceps, and the lats. This is consistent amongst all form of pull-up, but different variants of the pull-up do shift the demands that we place on each of these muscle groups. As an example, in the chin-up, we know we get far more bicep engagement than in the typical pull-up. The thing is, as beginners, we typically adopt a bastardized version of the hollow body pull-up, where due to the focus of getting as high as possible to complete a rep, we see this hunched over look. In turn, this position shifts the focus away from the larger muscles like the lats and traps, and more to the biceps, rear delts, and a small muscle called the teres major. But the long and short of it is that the larger muscles are literally not carrying their weight at the hardest part of the rep. By simply retracting and depressing our shoulders from here, we not only turn this into a more shoulder-friendly movement, but we place the larger muscles of the back, the lats, the rhomboids, in a more mechanically favorable position to create the tension that we need to drive this movement. Now, for pull-up beginners, this retracted and depressed position might not feel very intuitive. So we can stand on a box or jump into a pull-up top hold where we hold this as an isometric, which then becomes the goal when we get back to pull-ups with movement. When it comes to regressing the pull-up, a mistake I see way too often is just people not using bands. If we want to get better at pull-ups, we have to do pull-ups. Groundbreaking, right? The band assisting pull-ups are one of the best progressions because they bridge the gap between our current strength and the strength needed to do a pull-up. Despite how affordable bands are, I mean, you can literally get them on Amazon for about £5 or £6. Beginners are still often reluctant to invest in a piece of equipment that will save them so much time when it comes to learning how to do a pull-up. They are an easily measurable and scalable way for anybody at any level to do pull-ups, so make sure you're including band-assisted pull-ups in your training. Overuse and incorrect use of negative forms the next mistake, and while pull-up negatives are a staple progression for learning how to do pull-ups, they are often done wrong. The point of a negative of any exercise is to solely focus on the eccentric phase, the idea being that we are stronger in this phase than we are in the shortening phase, the concentric phase of a movement. 20 to 30% stronger in fact. So by doing negatives, what we're actually doing is allowing ourselves to achieve movements that might be just outside of our current reach. So with that in mind, there are two things that we really need to be conscious of when we're doing our negatives. The first is that because we are working at or near our max capacity, it makes no sense to do excessive negative reps because we're looking to build strength. We know that by sitting in the lower rep ranges, it allows us to optimize for strength, but I'd actually go one further and say excessive reps of pull-up negatives is actually dangerous, particularly if we can't do a pull-up yet because of the strain heavy negatives place on our connective tissue, which takes far longer to recover than our muscles do. Elbow and shoulder issues are rife in the calisthenics community, and this typically comes from overtaxing these areas when looking to achieve a particular exercise or skill. The other way negatives are poorly used is if your pull-up negatives look like this. Dropping like a stone in your pull-up negatives, aside from flirting with a dislocated shoulder, is a huge waste of time. A more productive use of time would be to build up the capacity in an exercise like the band-assisted pull-up, until such a point as negatives with proper form were within your gift. So slow your negatives right down, 7 to 12 seconds roughly per rep. Keep them under 5 to 6 reps as well, and take significant breaks between your sets to truly get the most out of them. Our grip strength is another factor limiting our pull-up gains. I'm more than happy to go on record and say that if you're looking to train to do pull-ups, you don't need to specifically train for grip strength. We will get more than enough time working on the muscles responsible for grip just by training the pull-up progressions that we've spoken about many times on this channel. But if you grip the bar like this, you are limiting your grip potential significantly. Placing your thumb around the bar instead makes you far less susceptible to movement during the pull-up, which saves us wasting energy. Anecdotally, I've seen this change in grip be responsible for a difference of up to 3 reps in the amount of pull-ups that someone can do, which doesn't sound like a lot, but over a long period of time, and given that the pull-up is such a demanding exercise, Compounded over weeks, months, and years, this would make a huge difference to an individual. Like I said, this grip might take a while to get used to, so better to start off as you mean to go on. If you're not taking your pull-ups to a full range of motion, this will also be limiting your pull-up progress. Strength is gained through the range trained, and if we train with a partial range of motion, we will only really get better at that aspect of the pull-up. The topmost and bottommost of the pull-up are the hardest part of this movement, and while it can be more comfortable to train in that middle position, you won't get better that way. We've already been through how to get better at the top part of the pull-up. But when it comes to tackling the bottom part of the pull-up, this is where an exercise like scapular pull-ups can become extremely valuable. Creating a stable base will form the foundation of a strong pull-up, and the scapular pull-up allows us to develop the retraction and depression control to do this without the strength requirements of the entire pull-up proper. Kipping is another thing that I see as a barrier to those looking to learn how to do a pull-up. Now, while kipping is almost a cardinal sin amongst calisthenics athletes, I actually have the smallest amount of patience for it when it comes to pushing ourselves. If you're trying to get that one extra rep, that last rep, well, I mean, it probably won't look very pretty. What I have a problem with is if all your reps actually look like this and you have some warped perception that by kipping you'll somehow be able to get to a point where you can do clean reps. This is just not the case, crowd, and we are simply cheating ourselves. Far better to give up on the ego gains and scale back the pull-up to an exercise that we can actually do. Crowd, when it comes to looking to learn how to do a pull-up, a lot of it comes down to being specifically intentional with what we're looking to do when we're training, as well as really just avoiding ego training. But if you're looking to see how you can take all of this information and apply it to a comprehensive, well-rounded and free pull-up training program, then check out this video.